Welcome to Slow and Steady, the podcast where you get to follow along as we figure out how to build and run a SaaS. I'm Benedikt.
And I'm Brian. Each week, we'll give you an honest peek into our lives as we work on our products and keep the lights on by becoming outdoor guides. Today's April 14th, and I am feeling uninspired.
This is episode number 37, and I'm starting an ant farm.
Oh, hey. Tell me about the ant farm. That's awesome.
Well, not so awesome. Involuntarily, we had some ants in our kitchen.
Oh, okay.
And we couldn't really figure out where they came from. So we removed all the skirting in the kitchen near the window and found a big hole in the wall there. And we plugged that hole, and it looked like everything is fine. So we put everything back in place, and now we have ants in the living room.
Wow, that's a bummer. Well, that should have been our silly little keeping the lights on by starting an ant farm.
Yeah,
and then we would find out how you feel about starting an ant farm. Oh man, yeah. That's just like a constant plug a hole here, plug a hole there, whack-a-mole game.
Yeah, and I'm not entirely sure. Like I don't see myself like trying to pull off all the skirting everywhere and try to find every single hole.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not entirely sure what we do. One like the first night we discovered that they're now in the living room. We catched like 34 ants or something like that. So yeah, it's no fun.
Yeah, that's not a fun game. When it starts to get cold here, we end up having to find okay, where's the little hole that the mice are getting into, because they start to try to come in from this field next to us, and it's just a constant little battle. But I mean, yeah, all good, part of it.
Yeah. We had mice in the garden last year, and luckily they didn't get into the house except for one time. Like, we saw a mouse in the garden while having dinner, and we're like, oh, look, a cute mouse. And
it's a little mouse.
Literally an hour later, we were sitting in the living room, and we had the window open because it was still quite warm. And suddenly we hear a weird noise and look to the window, and there's the mouse staring at us in shock, similar to us. And,
wow.
Yeah, of course, then the hunt began. And at some point, we saw a mouse outside, and we hope it was the same one.
Just convince yourself it's that one. Yeah, totally. Totally.
So, yeah.
How was last week, man?
Yeah, last week was good for the most part. I totally forgot about Easter. I didn't realize we had 2 public holidays until Thursday night. We went grocery shopping, and my girlfriend was, so what are I going to do tomorrow? And I'm like, working. And she was like, yeah, but it's a public holiday. And I'm like, oh, interesting. Yeah, you're right. So I'm totally out of I still am able to differentiate between weekdays and weekends. But other than that, I feel like I've totally lost track about anything.
Yeah. Differentiating, but just barely.
Yeah. So yeah, last week was, for that reason, a little bit shorter than anticipated. So I didn't get that much done. What about you? How was your week?
Oh, I mean, we recorded last week on Monday instead of Tuesday, because I was taking Tuesday off just to get up into the mountains. And so I went to this fishing spot that I enjoy, and it was really nice. It was beautiful. The weather was flawless, but everybody else kind of had the same idea. And so even for it being a Tuesday, It was pretty crowded. I mean, crowded for fishing. There's one person every 30 something yards, and that's a lot though. So it's kind of, it ended up being a little bit. Man, I don't know what the right word is, but usually if I take a day off to go fishing, I'm not leaving until dinner, like until it's dark.
Yeah.
But around 2:30 or so, I was just kind of losing steam, was striking out a bit, and it just made me really sad that my friends weren't with me, to try to solve it together, or just sit and rest my feet for a little while I watch one of my friends, try to solve a pool and catch something. It was kind of a bummer.
Did you catch
I'm glad
something?
I mean, early on, but then after that, like I said, it was so crowded, and it's safe to say that it has been crowded, for however many, for a couple of weeks now, that the fish were extremely picky. But the one I got was gorgeous, and it was good sized brown trout. Just reminded me, okay, the river's still here, the fish are still here. Everything's gonna be all right. Yeah, but honestly, Benedikt, by the end of the day, when typically I just feel so rejuvenated and refreshed, I honestly just left missing my friends and feeling feeling bummed about the situation. So it was.
So didn't really help the day off, or was it still a good to relax a little bit?
It was still good to get out of the house, in a safe, like in a responsible way, to change my setup for just a bit and try and get some time. And I got some good thinking done on the drive there and back. And yeah, so it was still good, but I don't know if I will go again. It just bummed me out. So it was weird. It's pretty weird.
Yeah. The
but
other part that bums me out right now is, this week is, we were supposed to meet in Minneapolis this weekend.
I know.
Right?
I know.
So that's not happening as well.
That is not happening. Yeah, but so speaking of that though, did you see the November dates that MicroConf announced for growth?
Yeah, I did. And I thought about, I think they offered to basically reschedule, change the tickets for the Denver edition to the Denver edition.
Yep.
I was thinking about that a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. Let's give it a shot in November. Yeah. Although I have to admit, I'm a little bit skeptical about whether or not this is going to happen.
I share your skepticism. I keep getting the feeling that things are not going back.
Yeah.
Or
me neither.
Until there's a vaccine and better testing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. What's your plan? Like, do you think you'll go to the November one, or are you?
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and,
given it happens.
I'll go ahead and switch my tickets to November. I need to confirm with my wife. I took a look at our calendar, and it appears that it'll be fine. And then, I mean, the Denver growth edition will be happening in my backyard,
sure.
Not too much later, and I'll be happy to go to both. I'll be able to attend that one, with free lodging.
Yeah.
And so it'll be okay to go to both, just in terms of, budgeting and things like that. So yeah, that's my plan right now. Benedikt is, I'm going to see if I can make the November one happen. If for some reason not, then I'll be excited for Denver.
I wonder what will happen to the Europe edition, because I think that's scheduled to be in October.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. Like I have no update on that. Like, are they skipping on that, or will there be 2 microcons in a month or something like that?
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see.
It has just made everything very interesting this year. Yep. I guess the other big news to report for me from last week was I had Thursday I had another interview with Mozilla for this product role. That I walked away from it feeling like, okay, that went okay, but not great. You know, I was like, I was kind of preparing myself to get the thanks but no thanks interview, but instead I'm moving on to the final round of interviews, which are today, actually, here in just a handful of hours. So three back-to-back 45-minute interviews with different folks from the
that's not like
company.
3 interviews back to back 45 minutes. That sounds exhausting.
I'm yeah. I'm feeling fine about it. I mean, there's nothing else to do except for be myself.
Sure.
But I'm also I'll be glad when it's when it's done. It's also the kind of thing that I'm not real sure even what the questions will be. You know, at this stage, it's probably not going to be, you know, super. I don't know. I was about to say, I feel like at this stage, you know, they'll be a lot more high level and strategic and not very tactical, you know, specific to the role, a little bit, you know, kind of more about, you know, relevant for the company. And that just seems like such a large area of questioning to even try to prepare for. So got a little outline, refreshing myself on my own resume, and I'll just be myself and see what happens.
Yeah, I guess there's not much else you can do to prepare at this stage. Yeah,
right.
I remember one interview I did. It was on site a couple years ago, and in the end, it took like 2 days of interviewing. So I stayed there for 1 day, and I was supposed to speak to everyone in the company. And of course, it was a small one, but it took like almost 2 full days of sitting there and talking to everyone.
Yeah, that I don't think super highly of that process right there.
Yeah. I mean, it was nice
unless they're gonna give you compensate you for your daily rate or something. Like,
they didn't do
ridiculous.
that, but at least they paid for the hotel and like travel expenses, so it was fine in that regard. But like almost 2 days of talking to a lot of people was a little bit too much. But then again, I met a lot of nice people, and one of them was at MicroConf in Lisbon, and I didn't realize until after the fact when I scrolled through Slack and I noticed his name, and I was like, "Oh, interesting." 10 years ago, I talked to you for an hour.
So good.
Oh yeah.
Well, how about you, man? What's happening in the world of Userlist?
So we decided to give Notion a try last week because we also decided that we have to be a little bit more strategic in our the way we approach new features. And that became clear last week the week before, when we implemented the team invites, where you can invite people to your account. And the thing I built and the thing that Jane had in mind were a little bit like off in terms of expectations. And at some point in the process, she started writing copy or adjusting the copy I had. And it was clear that we were on totally different pages on how this was supposed to work, and how things should be named, and how descriptions make sense. And we decided it's probably time to take a step back and reconsider how we build things. So far, it has been very much shooting from the hip. this is the rough idea. Let's just build something and then fine tune it afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess it's time to be a little bit more strategic about it. So we decided to adapt some of the shape up concepts, more explicitly the shaping part. But we decided to basically ditch the pitching part of the shaping process, where you basically work on the feature by yourself and then present it to everyone and outline your cool idea. We decided to more or less skip that and just like make pitching the first thing, like just a rough draft of, hey, I think this is a good idea because this and that, and I think it should roughly work like this. And if we decide it's a worthy thing to look into, then we're going to work on this together and like flesh out the details and maybe come up with some sketches and stuff like that. Because we figured otherwise it would be a waste of time if one of us spends a lot of time preparing a feature and pitching a feature, and then we decide, but it's probably not that important right now. We should rather work on something else. It feels like a waste of time. So we had a call.
That feels like a really smart modification of that process, because you're not in the position of luxury to have some people doing pitching and shaping, some people doing development. The way that Basecamp, you're doing both. And so
we have to do both. That's true. And and I think like when shaping, we also need both our opinions in there. It's not like we can't just from the engineering perspective or just from the design / marketing perspective. So we figured restructuring things is probably a good idea. And we also decided to we're not going to do cycles. Like the 6-week cycle probably also doesn't work for us because it's just too unpredictable. What else is coming up and what needs to be done and how big the support load will be and stuff like that. But
like it feels like it's too long of a period. There's no way for you to.
Yeah, I mean, depending on the feature, I mean, 6 weeks are probably still a good measure. And I think we are still going to do the appetites. Like when we decide to build something, we're probably also adding a timeline to it, or at least a time frame. We think we should spend like 2 weeks on this or 4 weeks or whatever. I think we're still going to do that, but not in a fixed cycle because it feels too unpredictable right now.
Just to push on that a little bit, it does seem like the value of fixing a time, fixing a quote deadline or just a cycle time ahead of time, is that it insists and forces you to make a call 2 weeks or 4 weeks or 6 weeks down the road.
Yeah.
So that you can stop throwing good time after bad, or cut scope and ship it.
Yeah. And I think that part is still valuable, and that's why we are still trying to do that, but not like have the fixed cycle length and basically iterations, but attach the time or the estimate, so to say, to the particular feature and be like, hey, we're going to work on this and we'll take, I don't know, 3 weeks for it. And if it doesn't work out in 3 weeks, we will reevaluate. But I think it worked, probably for our case, it works better this way because it's a little bit more flexible than basically having a global overall 6-week cycle of everything.
Got it. Yeah. Keep me posted. I think it sounds. It seems to make sense.
We see. So far, it's all theory.
I know. Well, and I think that's kind of the thing. Is like, I loved that book. There's a really great interview with Ryan Singer on this podcast called Bright and Early, if you've ever heard of it.
I noticed that on the Shape Up landing page.
And where it's like, okay, I love the approach that it's like enough structure but not too much, et cetera, et cetera. At the same time, a lot of the specifics that they define, I mean, they're still like small and scrappy to a degree, but they are a very mature and well-funded well-funded in the sense of like tons of revenue. Very mature, well-funded organization. That does not describe most or any of us, that are listening to this podcast. And so I'm always really curious to hear how people, tweak the shape up process to match a truly small and very early bootstrap team. So keep us posted on the details, man. And maybe Jane will write it up. Y'all have gotten into a pretty good habit of sharing some specifics when you try out a process and deliver.
We have, like, as I said, we started using Notion to basically consolidate a couple tools and also document stuff like that as a company wiki of sorts. Mm-hmm. So we already have a small write-up in there about the at least desirable product development flow. But I guess before we publish any of it, we at least have to do one cycle of actually doing it.
Let's get at least a couple in here and an iteration or two.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's see how this works out. But I think, this is better than nothing, I guess.
For sure.
So you also tried a couple of other tools. We looked at Coda, for example, but that felt a little bit almost too powerful. Like, it was able to do too much, and the UI felt very heavy to us. And you also tried what's it called, Slide or something like that, which felt like a Notion clone.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't heard that one.
Yeah, so we ended up using Notion, even though Jane doesn't like the typography of Notion. It was a little bit hard to convince her she could still give it a try.
I love that. That's so great.
Yeah, but I think ultimately, she's happy with the decision. At least it sounds like it.
Yeah, I really like. I haven't used it in many work contexts at all. I just use it for some personal stuff, just kind of tinkering around with it and trying it out. And I really like it as a documentation tool. Some people use it for project management, which I don't think makes any sense. But it feels like it makes a ton of sense for what you're using it for.
Yeah, we will be using it a little bit for project management, but I think in our scale, it's not that critical. It doesn't need a dedicated tool yet. But we will have we have a small Kanban board where things will move through.
Yeah.
And we're currently doing this in Asana. But Asana is a good to-do list app or a good to-do management app, but it wasn't really a good place to document stuff and keep longer notes about things, because it's so hard to find things once they are done.
Yeah.
So we're trying to migrate all of that into Notion right now, and maybe even getting rid of some of our. We have a lot of Google Docs with the blog posts and stuff like that, and we're thinking about moving that over as well. So yeah, we'll see.
Cool. Keep us posted.
Will do. Yeah. In other news, we decided, it kind of related to that a little bit. We decided to give Storybook a try. And I recently discovered it as a tool to, basically it's a JavaScript framework / app. I don't really know how to describe it, that integrates into your existing JavaScript project and basically gives you a preview of all your UI components. So it's kind of like a design system viewer or a style guide viewer, something like that. And it took me a while to set it up, but now that we have it, it looks like a powerful tool to just like view every single UI component in isolation and try it out in isolation. And you can even do like fun stuff, like when you have a component and it it takes a couple of inputs. Like, for example, you have a button component and it has an icon and a label.
Mm-hmm.
And Storybook allows you to have like an additional panel in their UI where you then can customize the label and customize the icon, and just the preview updates automatically. So it's pretty cool. Because
I'm gonna check that out. I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, definitely check it out. I'm not entirely sure, like, if it's worth it in the end, but like for now, it's super cool to just like get a collection of all the UI components that are scattered around in the user interface and just have them all in one place. Like, I started adding, for example, all the modal dialogues that we have that are hidden somewhere on some pages when you click one button or something. And now we have a list in Storybook, and you can just preview every single one of them without having to figure out where to find that particular model. You can just like switch between all of them in one click and make sure they are consistent and stuff like that.
I need to look at this. I'm doing this for pretty similar for my client right now. Just trying to like get one view of the entire UI library. To make development a bit more streamlined. Okay.
Yeah, definitely check it out. And it has like integrations for a couple of the popular frameworks like Vue and React. I think it comes from the React community. I think it's a React app. Yeah, I was thinking about maybe, like, as you said, just building a page ourselves, like with all the components in there. But yeah, this tool looks pretty cool.
Pretty slick. All right, cool. I'll check it out.
Yeah. That basically came out of the icon work I did last week, revisiting all the icons, and I think I got them all. They are all harmonized by now, and hopefully we can ship this sometime this week.
Congrats.
Yeah. One other thing that I've been thinking about in the last week or so, and that was inspired by Paul Campbell of Tito. They are the ticketing service we're using for FemtoConf, and because of like everything that's happening, they were like, he was on Twitter being like, yeah, I've been a CEO of a somewhat successful company for the last 5 years or so, and suddenly I'm the CEO of a startup, having to figure out like how to keep money getting in and stuff like that. Yeah. And that inspired them to just launch an entirely new product for online conferences. And it looks really cool. And it got me thinking about doing an online edition of FemtoConf. But I'm not entirely convinced yet to like how to do this. What their tool does is basically they provide you with a dedicated page in their tool where people can sign up and basically get access, and you have like a timeline, Twitter-like timeline, where people can post messages and discuss things, and then on the screen is split between that part, and then you have basically a video feed of the conference and the talks, as well as the schedule below it, and basically can stream the entire conference that way pretty nicely. But the thing I'm not sure about is that, especially for FemtoConf, it's so much of just a in-person meetup of people who already share several communication channels and communities with each other. So I'm not entirely sure if it makes sense for FemtoConf to be an online event, because ultimately it's an additional community you will be part of, and just having the talks in there with an added community, I'm not entirely sure if this adds enough value or is different from what we already do by hanging out in the Maker community and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that's definitely my gut reaction also, like, would hmm. Yeah, I kinda
Yeah.
all sorts of different thoughts, but it's
Yeah,
gonna be a hard one.
I'm not totally convinced about what to do there. And also, like, I had a call with Paul about this tool, and I think he'd like FamilyConf to be part of it, of course, for obvious reasons. And he was like, "Yeah, you should also charge for it, and maybe even the same price for than what you would charge for the in-person event." And I'm like, yeah, interesting. I mean, yeah, some additional money would be nice, but would people pay like 350 euros for an online event with a couple of talks that they can probably watch on YouTube anyways?
Yeah.
So
What's
yeah, I'm sure.
what I've thought would be interesting is to organize a watch party, of
Mhm.
and watch 3 or 4 conference talks, like well-established, well-known ones that are available online for free. But
Mhm.
you and a small group of 6 or 15 people watch a talk in sync, take 20 minutes to discuss it afterwards, go grab a coffee, come right
Mhm.
back, and just have a morning session of watching talks, getting inspired, hearing other people's takes, and that yeah, it feels like that can be organized around all sorts of really great content that's already available. And
That's a cool idea.
okay, well,
Did you see the MicroConf on air live stream things
I
they're
caught
doing?
yeah, I saw them, and I haven't just timing wise. I think I caught a little bit of one, but um,
Yeah,
how about you?
I think they try to do a little bit of that by basically putting up a topic for the call, and
Uh
usually it
huh.
was related to a talk, and encourage people to watch that talk, and then they had that particular speaker on the live stream to basically
Nice.
discuss the talk and the contents of the talk.
Yep.
And I think that's also a cool format, but it's definitely not a format I'd be comfortable charging for.
Yeah. I think also people joke about this, but it's so true. The value, the other part of the value of an in-person conference is it forces you to clear your calendar and
Hmm.
be completely present and in
Yeah,
attendance elsewhere. And people joke
yeah,
about scheduling a conference, scheduling time on your calendar for a conference, and then just not going to the conference. Um, and I feel like the thing around virtual events, and even the thing I was just describing, is that
yeah,
you know it people will be tempted to allow other distractions to come in and to
hmm,
to multitask because you're not sitting there, you didn't pay a bunch of money for it, you don't have that much
yeah,
skin in, and yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I
Maybe that's a good argument for actually charging a lot of money for an event like this.
yeah, that's actually true. That's true. Forces people to commit. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
you're
why
paying
I
much.
think, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think that I'm sure conferences are definitely taking a hit this year and next year and maybe even the year
Hmm.
after. But no matter how good video conferencing and the technology
Yeah,
gets, I just think there's always value in in-person retreats, in-person conferences, events, things like that.
yeah, yeah. Agreed.
Well,
Yeah. Well, still thinking
anything
about it.
else? Yeah. Anything else begging on your mind right now?
No, I think that's the big parts. Yeah, nothing too exciting going on besides that.
All right.
Cool. Yeah.
Well,
Do you have
maybe
anything else to discuss?
no, maybe this time next week I'll have a an update on
Yeah.
this job situation. Nothing, I mean, nothing else really cooking uh at all besides this.
Yeah.
So trying to approach it with patience and calm, but it also makes this final round today, the stakes feel a little bit higher than I would like to feel like they feel.
Yeah.
So yeah,
is this the only one where you're still in the game, or
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, nothing else is cooking. Everything else, I've not heard anything, or the position is closed.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
Or thanks, but we're advancing with somebody else who is a better fit at this time, kind of message. But
yeah. Do you have an idea about how much competition there is? Like how many other applicants?
I mean, in the hundreds.
Okay.
But I have no idea how many are in this final round or when they're going to make that decision. I mean, that comes strictly based off of being able to see. It's a remote position, and so they've posted it on LinkedIn in 15 different cities, each of which have 40 and 50 applicants per city. So it's a pretty competitive opening.
Well, my fingers are definitely crossed. Wishing you all the best for the interviews.
Yeah, thanks, man. Mine as well. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Then show notes at slowandsteadypodcast.com and follow us on Twitter, slowsteadypod. See you
later.